It is early National Signing Day for college football. Kansas State has officially signed five-star Lincoln Cure. The class overall is looking strong, but like every class, we won't truly know how good it is until 3, 4, or 5 years down the road. In this video, I will look back at past K-State recruiting classes and rank my top 10 all-time. Like always, I have a few honorable mentions to give love to. The 2021 class is headed by DJ Giddens. He had no hype and no stars coming out of high school, but is now one of K-State's best running backs of all time. It was a strong transfer class with guys like Julius Brents, Reggie Stubblefield, and Russ Yeast. The class also included Desmond Purnell, Sam Hecht, Chris Tennant, and Damian Alalio. The 2002 class starts off with junior college receiver James Terry, who set the single-season receiving yards record at Kansas State. Ryan Liljah and Jeremy Clary paved the way for a Big 12 title, and both had long NFL careers. Brandon Archer, Jermaine Berry, Kevin Huntley, and Randy Jordan were some of the other standouts. The 2009 class was Bill Snyder's first after returning to K-State. It had a dismal team ranking of 92nd overall, but turned into a quality class with guys like Ty Zimmerman from Junction City and John Hubert from Waco, Texas. Chris Harper was a headliner of the class after transferring back to his home state from the Oregon Ducks. Cornelius Lucas, Tremaine Thompson, Emmanuel Lamure, and David Garrett rounded out the class. 2001 was a deep class with lots of role players and depth pieces, but the reason it gets extra love is Darren Sproles. When you are one of the greatest K-State players of all time, you bring up the entire class ranking. Sproles had interest from all of the area schools, but most backed off because of his size. He would go on to be an All-American at Kansas State. Tank Reese, Bobby Walker, Taco Wallace, and Travis Wilson all deserve a mention as well. My number 10 ranked K-State class is surprisingly Ron Prince's last class. This group includes Heisman finalist Colin Klein, who was ranked as the number 662 player in the nation and 24th pro-style quarterback. While he was a Ron Prince recruit, he ended up being the perfect quarterback for Bill Snyder's system. It would take him another year to become eligible, but four-star junior college athlete Daniel Thomas was also in this class. He was a huge part of the first 2 years of Snyder's return and carried the offense for those 2 seasons. Brandon Banks was unheralded coming out of junior college because of his size, but he was electric with his speed. Wade Wybird and Zach Hansen were solid additions to the offensive line, and Jeffrey Fitzgerald had a good single season on the defensive line after transferring from Virginia. Brandon Harrell was a great player, but did not last long at Kansas State. Going way back to the early Snyder days, I have the 1991 class ranked 9th all-time. K-State beefed up their defensive line by signing future Big 8 Defensive Player of the Year Tim Colston out of Tampa, Florida, and extremely good defensive end Dirk Oaks, who would go on to set the single-season and career sack record at K-State. Mitch Running and Tyson Schwager signed with Kansas State as walk-ons out of Iowa. They became one of the best receiver tandems in school history. Sean Snyder transferred in from Iowa and became an All-American. Chuck Marlowe, a safety from Youngstown, Ohio, was all-conference. The 2020 class was not deep with talent, but when you have 3 players who are in the best 2 to 3 all-time at their position in one class, it has to be ranked. Deuce Vaughn from Round Rock, Texas, drew instant comparisons to Darren Sproles because of his size and agility. K-State was able to hold on to his commitment despite offers from Arkansas and Missouri. Felix Anudike-Uzomah is one of the great player developmental success stories, was committed to North Dakota State when K-State offered, but was considering going to Missouri to be a regular student. He committed to Kansas State and became Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year and a first-round NFL draft pick. Ben Sinnett is arguably the greatest tight end in K-State history and was only a walk-on. This class truly shows that recruiting rankings are not everything. Will Howard certainly had an up-and-down career at K-State, but you have to give props to a quarterback who wins a Big 12 championship. Briley Moore, Hadley Panzer, and Carver Willis round out this class. The 1996 class comes in at number 7 on my list. It is full of some of the biggest names from the best K-State teams of the 90s and early 2000s. Jared Cooper was a hard-hitting player from Pearland, Texas, who was recruited to play either safety or linebacker. He would become a fan favorite by his freshman year. Jonathan Beasley was a big-time QB recruiting win for Bill Snyder's staff. The Glendale, Arizona quarterback would go on to back-to-back 11-win seasons at K-State. David Allen from Liberty, Missouri is known as the greatest punt returner in school history at a school known for great return men. Dyshad Carter, Chris Johnson, and Jerome Evans would all have huge impacts on the defense and earn all-conference honors. Randall Cummins became a stud center, and Milford Stevenson was the starting left tackle despite coming to K-State as a 215-pound tight end. Local Kansas kids Shad Meyer, Jamie Ream, and Jason Kazar rounded out the class. The number 6th ranked class is 1993. The coaching staff pulled future studs out of Florida, Texas, New Jersey, Indiana, California, and Kansas. Two-time consensus first-team All-American corner Chris Kenny came to K-State from Voorhees, New Jersey. He picked the Cats over Boston College, Wisconsin, and Rutgers. K-State pulled 6'5", 225-pound Todd Weiner out of Coral Springs, Florida, and turned him into one of the best offensive linemen in school history. Fellow offensive line legend Kendall Jaycox came from high school powerhouse Dallas Carter. Kansas State was able to pull a couple of dynamic running backs out of the state of Florida in Mike Lawrence and Eric Hickson, despite offers from in-state schools Miami, Florida State, and Florida. Each of them would at one time hold the K-State record for career rushing yards. Deshaun Fogle came to K-State from right down the road at Chapman High School. There are recruiting misses even in great classes. Pete Jalovic was a top QB recruit who didn't pan out at K-State and ended up transferring to Emporia State. The 1992 class resulted in one of the top quarterback-receiver connections in K-State history. Chad May transferred in from Cal State Fullerton in 1992 and would go on to lead one of the best passing attacks in the country. One of his favorite targets was Kevin Lockett, who came in as a freshman from Booker T. Washington in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Lockett would rewrite the receiving record books while at Kansas State. The high school quarterback of the class was Brian Cavanaugh. Although he did not become the starter until year 5, he would take home second-team All-Big 12 honors. Niall Wyron came to K-State as a 220-pound fullback from Wichita, but he would leave as one of the best defensive ends to ever play for the Wildcats. Hard-hitting safety Mario Smith was a late addition to the class. He was one of the earliest recruits from the Miami pipeline that would become a hotbed for Kansas State recruiting in the 90s. Purcell Gaskins was an incredible athlete who won an NCAA national title for high jump. Gaskins transferred to K-State from Northwestern Oklahoma State and became an All-American linebacker. The 1995 class was very top-heavy with talent. The top 5 guys in the class are some all-time greats, but there isn't a ton of quality players behind them. Mark Simoneau came to K-State from Smith Center, Kansas, where he averaged over 10 yards a carry as a running back. He is now known as arguably the greatest linebacker in Kansas State history. Darren Howard is another player who most fans would consider to be the greatest of all time at his position. Coming out of St. Petersburg, Florida, Howard was committed to play linebacker for NC State until assistant coach Jim Levitt convinced him to come to K-State as a defensive end. Lamar Chapman was a state championship quarterback from Liberal, Kansas. He signed up to be a Wildcat and became an All-American safety. Damian McIntosh was recruited by Miami, Florida State, Pitt, and Michigan State, but the two-way star was convinced by Bob Stoops to come to Kansas State. Brian Goolsby, a fullback from Dodge City, is known as one of the greatest blocking fullbacks in K-State history. This class also included James Garcia, Ian Moses, Dimitri Denmark, and Travis Litton. Breaking the trend of all the classes from the 1990s, I have the 2011 recruiting class in my number 3 spot. This class was heavy on impact JUCO players to set up the 2011 and 2012 success, but the best player in the class was a high school wide receiver from Booker T. Washington in Tulsa. Tyler Lockett was a 3-star ranked number 733 in the country, but with his pedigree, K-State fans knew to expect greatness. They were not disappointed. Tyler would rewrite almost all of the receiving records at K-State and has had an excellent NFL career. Cody Whitehair was a lightly recruited offensive lineman from Abilene. He ranked number 1194 in the nation, but became a starter on K-State's offensive line as a redshirt freshman. He is currently in his 9th NFL season. Meshach Williams came to K-State from Hutchinson Community College and quickly became a pass rushing force, winning Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year in 2012. The Wildcats pulled Nigel Malone and Alan Chapman from San Francisco Community College. They would form one of the better cornerback duos in the nation for their 2 years at K-State. Dante Barnett came from the same high school as Tyler Lockett and would become one of the better all-around safeties in recent K-State memory. The class also included Vi Latii, Boston Stuyvesant, Mike Moore, Justin Tuggle, Morgan Burns, Glenn Gronkowski, and Daniel Sams. In my number 2 spot is 1999, which is probably the deepest high school class in K-State history. They really showed that in 2003 as seniors when this group won the Big 12 championship versus Oklahoma. L. Roberson was the biggest recruiting get in Bill Snyder's coaching tenure. Roberson won the Houston Area Player of the Year and was the Texas 5A Player of the Year. He is now in the K-State Ring of Honor. K-State also pulled 3 linebackers out of the state of Texas. Terry Pierce from Fort Worth and Josh Buell and Brian Hickman from Mesquite. They would form one of the best linebacker trios in the country, while at K-State, nicknamed TNT or Three Nasty Texans. Rashad Washington was a dynamic athlete from Wichita who originally came to K-State as a running back, but made the switch to safety and became an all-conference player. Andrew Shull from Webb City, Missouri, Thomas Houchin from Sanger, Texas, and Justin Montgomery from Smith Center, Kansas, would go on to form one of the most feared defensive lines in the country by the time they were upperclassmen at K-State. He wasn't a high school recruit, but Mario Faudafe, he was a star at K-State at defensive tackle in 1999 and 2000. Coming out of Snow Junior College in Utah, he was originally committed to BYU but switched to K-State after visiting Manhattan. 300-pound running back Joe Hall committed to K-State after several other teams wanted him to exclusively play fullback. Thomas Hill, Matt Martin, and Derek Evans were also in this class. The number 1 ranked recruiting class is a group from 1997, which directly led to the greatest K-State football team of all time in 1998. 3 immediate impact community college transfers and several top-flight high school players led to some dominating football in the late 90s for the Wildcats. Michael Bishop came to K-State from Blinn Community College after ranking as a top 3 JUCO QB by the recruiting services. In my opinion, he is the best KSU football player of all time. Jeff Kelly was a Jayhawk Conference Defensive Player of the Year at Garden City Community College and became one of the absolute best K-State linebackers in history. The Wildcats had to fight off Oklahoma to retain his commitment. Darnell McDonald, also from Garden City Community College, was a stud receiver for his 2 years as a Wildcat. This class had multiple parade All-American high school players, including linebacker Ben Lieber from Vermillion, South Dakota, and defensive end Monty Beisel from Douglas, Kansas. Both would star at K-State before having long NFL careers. John McGraw came to K-State as a walk-on from nearby Riley County, but would leave K-State as one of the best safeties in program history. Jeremetrius Butler from Dallas Carter High School was a 3-year starter for the Wildcats before leaving early for the NFL draft. Aaron Lockett continued the Lockett tradition at K-State and became an electric receiver and return man by his redshirt freshman season. Starting offensive linemen Thomas Barnett, Andy Eby, John Robertson, and Brian Hanley all come to K-State in this class. It also included Andre Rowe, Milton Proctor, and Gerald Niesman.